So this is what it sounds like all together. Hi guys, SKETI here, welcome to a new tutorial. This time we're going to look at how to make another gnarly bass for the likes of DNB, rhythm, dubstep, bass house breaks, any sort of bass heavy kind of music. So let's get to it. So we're making this bass in Serum, like I did last time for the gnarly bass that I made. And I'm going to go quickly through this. I'm going to drop a link to this preset in the description box below this video, so you can grab hold of it after you've watched it. So I've got the sub turned on with the analog sine wave instead of just the standard one, just for a little bit of, doesn't add much harmonics, but just makes it a little bit grittier when we start applying distortions and so on, and as we go through this tutorial. Set it to -1 octave and a saw wave, always starting from the same point, so that random dial all the way down. Again at -1 octave, and I've set the unison to 5. I've also got it oscillator B FMing into it, but you will hear that after, as I start to turn that on, and the level set as normal, and this is what it sounds like so far. And that sort of click at the beginning, I've just basically set envelope to on the master tune, just to basically, like I would, just to give it that sort of like pitch attack transient as it drops down back to the fundamental. That's on envelope 2 over the space of 31 milliseconds, so it's quite fast. Next thing is actually, I'll come back to the noise in a second. So the next thing I've added is oscillator B, another sawtooth wave. This is set to +2 octave and a coarse tuning of 7.16. So instead of having just 7 semitones, I've added an extra 16 cents. And sometimes you find that having a slight detune, especially when you're FMing, can allow some extra harmonics that you wouldn't normally get if it was perfectly in tune. Again, I've set the random dial all the way to 0, so it starts from the same point, and the level of this all the way down so you don't hear it. But this is what it sounds like FMing it into oscillator A. So it's got that sort of screechy, horny top end there now. And I've also turned on the bend plus, so when I get to these LFOs, I'll start to apply them, and you'll hear what they sound like. The filter I've set to all passes, and that's actually, before we get to the filter, I'm just actually going to turn this noise on. So I've just kept it at AC hum 1, turned it on to 1 shot, and also key tuned it as well, and I've set it to 24 semitones, and that's being affected by LFO 1, so it's basically just there for the transient. So if I turn oscillator A off, so it's just to add a bit of an attack at the beginning and some top end, and again when we apply some distortion to it, you'll hear that sort of distorted and affected by that as well. So next thing is the all passes filter that I've added. I've set the cutoff to 69 Hz, and it's affecting oscillator A and the noise oscillator, damp all the way down, drive all the way down, resonance at 10%, and this LFO is affecting it, but very slightly, about that much. Let's listen to that now. If I turn oscillator on, A on, that would help. So not a massive amount of change, but again, just add some extra harmonics. And then LFO2, which I've set to this wave shape, just to explain the LFOs. So the first one is set as envelope triggerer. So not like constantly every time it plays, it's looping back around. It's just an envelope, and that's set to an 1/8 note with this kind of waveform. Next one is on a half note, but like if it's like a square wave, but with the edges dragged down a little bit and up a little bit like that. And this is set to off, so basically it's always going through the bar instead of triggering every time the note starts. And this is applied here, and again the notch in the middle rather than it starting from the center point and bringing that all the way down. So basically it's almost like it's doing this backwards and forwards just to add a bit of variation. This thing's done a lot in rhythm style music and dubstep as well. It's almost like it's moving backwards and forwards, as you can hear it now. The next thing, let's just check what else we've got. Right, so bend, this is also applied to this bend plus amount here. So again, just sort of sweeping backwards and forwards, and this is what that sounds like. Nice one. Right, so the next thing that we're on to now is the effects. So all I've got turned on at the moment is the compressor, which is set to multiband mode, and this was just to bring the level up, because obviously if I turn it off it's really quiet. and I like to work out the loudness that I'm going to be at straight away, just so I can hear sort of the sort of realms that it's going to sound like as I'm finishing the bass. Next thing is hyperdimension, and we've got the rate and detune set as normal, retriggering every time the note starts again, and mix set to 6%. The size of the dimension set to 3%, and the mix of that to 46%. So that's what it sounds like. This is what that sounds like now. And this is just adding some extra space and width, which when we start to add in the processing later on, you'll hear why that's apparent. Distortion, mix it all the way up, drive all the way up, and it's set to hard clip, and this is LFO1's applied to this. So basically it's going down every time the note triggers, so we've got that transient quite nice, but then it brings it back up, so it distorts quite a lot with that hard clip distortion. Let's listen to that now. So this is shaping a lot of the sound already. Then I've added a phaser, and this is being applied with LFO3, if I just check from the other one I did. Yeah. So, right, so the phaser rate is all the way to 0, so I'm controlling how much this is phasing. Phasing stereo width is set to 0, so it's basically in mono, so it's not sweeping left and right. If I turn this on, and then LFO3, frequency is set to 128 Hz. I'm just going to notch that as well. So it basically goes either side of the center point, and this is what this sounds like. See if I turn the mix up. And again, that's just to add in some extra sort of like thickness to the sound and a little bit more variation, harmonics as well. But it's not very noticeable, obviously, with the mix turned down, but it's still there, just adding an extra bit to the sound. So when I start to process, it brings in some more harmonics and dynamics that I wouldn't have had without the phaser. Next thing is an EQ, and I've kept the frequencies and the Q points set to the same. I've set them both to bell curve. The gain on the lower end one all the way down, and the gain on the upper one at 8 decibels. And then I've applied LFO1, so basically it's going to the center point from 210 Hz, and then to the center point from 2041 Hz. And this is what that sounds like now. Doesn't sound like anything. Why isn't that playing? Let me just check. Sometimes my Soundflower glitches out on me. Yep, so that's just added an extra sort of shaping of the sound. And then I've applied a filter, which is the Combs filter on this one. I've set the cutoff to 58 Hz. Now that's very specific for this sound because of the sound I'm trying to achieve. It's sort of like the reverb filter. It does drastically change the sound. I've turned the damp all the way up, and then an LFO applied, so that's LFO1. So basically mimicking what I've done here with the all passes. And then LFO2, again as the center point, it's swinging both sides of the center point, and all the way down like that. I just want to check the other one because that doesn't sound like it should have. 58 Hz? Yeah, it sounds slightly different. I'm not sure what's going on there. What have I done? Phaser, turn the phase all the way down. Something's glitched out on this. Right. Yeah, something's happened with this one. We're basically creating the same synth here. This is the one I made earlier. I'm going to move to this one now because it doesn't sound how I wanted it to. So just quickly pausing the video there. I think I found out what the issue was. It's this filter here. Sometimes it causes a glitch. I think I might have found a bug in Serum. I might get in touch with Steve Duder about that. Now I can't seem to be able to replicate that bug, but it sometimes happens, it sometimes doesn't. So anyway, back to the video. Yeah, so yeah, that Combs filter there, and then the reverb I've set as a plate reverb size to 21%, pre-delay all the way down, low cut up so it's not reverb in the bottom end, width all the way up, again add some extra width, and the damp a little bit higher, so because this is quite a metallic sound, I don't want lots of top end in the reverb, and I've set the mix to there as well, to 19% as well. Cool. Yeah, that might be why, because on this one, let me just check. So it's 7.16 on the course, 7.16. I know why. Yep, there we go. Oh no, it's not. Something happened with that other preset, I'm not sure now. Right, so yeah, D-tune 0.11, blend 75. Right, so yeah, I'm going to drop this preset in the description so you can download. But yeah, that's the basic setup of that, and now on to the post-processing. So I've got an amp which is set to the boost setting. The mid dial for the EQ is set to 4.52, treble 1.27, presence 0.71, and the output's set to dual instead of mono, because obviously this is a sort of stereo bass, but if we set it to mono, we just bring it all back down to mono, just so we can retain that stereo width of it, and the dry wet set to 16.7%. Just add a little extra grit, nothing much. Saturator set to analog clip, 5.14 decibels of drive, soft clip turned on, and the dry wet set to 9.52%. Again, just a little bit of extra grit, so it's always good to add small amounts of distortion after each other instead of just like massive amounts through one, because you can just completely cripple the sound that you're trying to create. Overdrive with that setting, so we've got nothing really distorting in the bottom end with this one. Dry wet set to 9% and dynamic set to 88%. And then a glue compressor with the soft clip turned on, dry wet 100%, makeup gain at 1.9% decibel, sorry. So again, these are just really sort of turning it up now. Now the OTT, this took me a minute to get right, but basically I'm boosting a lot of the bottom end, if we just listen to that by itself, because we'd lost a lot. Mids, not massive amount of boosting on the mids. And then a lot of boosting on the top end as well. But then I turned that down from 10.3 decibels to 5.4 decibels, and the amount set to 20%. So this is what it sounds like fully up. So yeah, I didn't really want that, so yeah, I brought that to 20%. And then this EQ8 just to do some final shaping. High pass filter at 30 Hz with the ×4 polarity. A bell notch at 74.2 Hz, which is quite wide, yeah, 0.89 on the Q. Another notch at 1.14 kilohertz. Another notch at 5.62 kilohertz with a 0.71 Q, so quite wide, and low pass filter at 16.7 kilohertz, just to get rid of any top end that's just not necessary. And then to finish off, a glue compressor, 4.76 decibels of makeup gain. And this is what it sounds like without any of that post processing. So nothing massively different there, just to basically bring up some of the bottom end and also just add a little bit of extra grit that I wasn't really able to push out of the initial serum patch. And again, as I always say, it's good to listen to stuff with music. Just turn on the sidechain compressor for the bass. So here's just some drums here, just to sort of hear it in context with something. Also in the MIDI, I have just done a pitch sweep up at the end of the 4th bar. So this is what it sounds like all together. So there you go, guys, another gnarly bass that you can use for DNB, rhythm, dubstep or breaks, any bass heavy kind of music, like bass house as well. So yeah, hope you found that useful. Leave a comment below, anything you want, any questions that you want answering, or suggestions for future videos. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so you see my videos in the future. Check out any of my other videos as well that you might find useful, and we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.
Everybody jump up, come on!